Hi, you are watching Reddit Stories.
My ex-girlfriend cheated on me. That wasn't even the worst part. So, this happened about 3 years ago, but I still think about it more than I should. I'm not really sure if I'm over it or if I ever will be. The betrayal itself? Yeah, it stung, but it was everything that came after that turned my life completely inside out. Let's rewind. I was 28, working remote as a systems analyst. Lived in a mid-sized city in the Midwest, nothing glamorous. My ex, let's call her Rachel, was 26 and a nurse at a local hospital. We'd been together for 4 years. She moved in with me after the first year. I thought we had a good thing. We had the Spotify playlists, the weekend farmers markets, the his and her mugs. You know the vibe. Looking back, the first cracks were subtle. She started taking extra shifts at the hospital. I didn't think much of it. She loved her job, and we were saving up for a vacation to Spain. Her idea, by the way. But then came the little changes. She'd come home and immediately shower. Her phone started living face down on the nightstand. Password changed. She started calling me babe less and dude more. Like we were bros now. I asked if something was wrong. She said I was being paranoid. Classic. The real unraveling began one night when she left her iPad on the couch. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I picked it up to plug it in and saw a message notification flash from someone named Dr. B. She'd never mentioned a Dr. B before. I tapped it. That one tap blew my entire world apart. I won't go into the full text exchange. But let's just say, Rachel had a lot more going on at that hospital than IV drips and charting. It was explicit, repeated. And worse, she loved him. She said that in writing. I love you. I wish I could fall asleep next to you tonight. Boom. I confronted her that night. She didn't even cry. Just sat there, staring, like her body was present, but her mind had checked out. She admitted to it. It had been going on for 6 months. He was a married doctor. Of course. She moved out the next day, left her key on the counter, took the cat. I never saw her again. Or so I thought. That should have been the end. Breakup, sadness, healing, moving on. But then weird things started happening. First, small stuff. I'd go for a walk, come back, and my apartment smelled like her perfume. I thought I was going crazy. Then one morning, I found my door unlocked. I never leave it unlocked. I'm the paranoid type. A few days later, my work laptop was missing. I tore the place apart. Gone. I had it on the table the night before. No sign of forced entry. I called my landlord. No one had accessed my unit. Police couldn't do anything, said maybe I misplaced it. Then I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was my laptop. Wiped. Every file, every note, every login, gone. But the background wallpaper had changed. It was a photo of me and Rachel taken on a camping trip 2 years earlier. Only this time, there was someone else standing in the background. A blurred, looming figure in the trees. I never remembered anyone being there. My stomach dropped. I tried to rationalize. Maybe she was screwing with me. Maybe it was just an old photo and my brain was playing tricks. But then, a few weeks later, I got an email from a burner account. One sentence. You shouldn't have looked through the iPad. And attached was a video of me sleeping. From inside my apartment, I slept with the lights on for weeks after that. After that email with the video of me sleeping, I stopped functioning like a normal human. I barely left the apartment, my blinds stayed closed, my laptop camera was covered, and I put a sock over my phone mic. Yeah, tinfoil hat level. But once you've been watched like that, the paranoia never leaves. I didn't report the video to the police. What was I going to say? Hi, someone I broke up with may have filmed me sleeping and sent it to me anonymously, using a wiped laptop they somehow stole and returned? Yeah, sure. I could already hear the detective sighing. Still, I tried to investigate myself. I went full Reddit detective mode. I created a spreadsheet of every odd thing that had happened since the breakup. Cross-referenced timelines, even called her hospital pretending to be a recruiter to ask if Dr. B was still employed there. He wasn't. In fact, he'd been let go 2 months prior due to a personnel matter. They didn't say more, but I could read between the lines. I started to wonder if maybe Rachel had spiraled after he got fired. Maybe he ghosted her, and now she was taking it out on me. Maybe she was more obsessed than I ever realized. But then the narrative flipped again. A package showed up at my place with no name, just my address written in a hurried scrawl. Inside was a thumb drive. I plugged it into an old laptop I hadn't used since college and ran it in a sandbox just in case it was some malware. It wasn't. It was a folder titled Proof. Inside, dozens of files, screenshots, logs, photos. Most of it was surveillance on me. Photos of me at the grocery store, in my car, at work from when I used to go into the office. Every time Rachel was in the background. Sometimes obvious, sometimes blurry, sometimes just her shoes, but always her. The final file was a long text document. It was like a diary. Only. It wasn't hers, it was Dr. B's. He'd been writing down things about me, obsessive things. He tracked my habits, my music tastes, even quotes I'd said to Rachel that she must have shared with him. He hated me. Said I didn't deserve her. Said she was wasting her potential on a shell of a man. I realized then she hadn't just been cheating on me with him. They had been planning something, watching me, studying me. For what purpose, I still didn't understand. But that wasn't even the worst part. The very last entry, dated just a week before he was fired, said, "She's having doubts. I see it in her eyes. She's weaker than I thought. But it's okay. I'll fix it. One way or another, I'll take care of him. She just needs the right push." Then the entries stopped. I sat staring at the screen for a full 5 minutes. I should have felt relief that Rachel might have backed out of whatever nightmare scenario he had in mind. But instead, I felt this deep, pulsing dread. Like I had only just started to glimpse the edge of something bigger. A few days later, I got a call. Unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was Rachel's mom. She was crying. Rachel was missing. Had been for a week. I hadn't spoken to her since the breakup. I didn't know what to say. But I drove out to her mom's house, 2 towns over. She handed me a shoebox. "This came for you." Rachel had it. I found it in her closet. Inside, more photos, all of me, but these were older. Some from years ago. One of them was from before I'd even met Rachel. That's when the walls really started closing in. She had been watching me long before I ever knew her. So now I'm sitting in the living room of my ex-girlfriend's mother, shoebox of my own life in my lap, and I realize I have no idea who Rachel really was. Her mom's sobbing quietly into a tissue, rocking slightly like she's trying to wake herself up from a nightmare. I ask her if Rachel ever mentioned Dr. B. She stiffens. Then she looks at me and says the most unexpected thing so far. I never liked him, but she wouldn't stop seeing him, and he wasn't the first. Wasn't the first? Apparently, Rachel had a pattern. Since high school, she'd dated older men, sometimes much older. She would find authority figures, teachers, professors, her boss at a vet clinic once. Then it would end suddenly. Violently in one case. A restraining order had been filed against her in college, but sealed. Her mom said she'd always had trouble with boundaries. And then she said something else. She talked about you before she met you. I asked her what she meant. She got up, walked into Rachel's childhood bedroom, and came back with a journal. The cover had cartoon owls on it. Very teenage girl aesthetic. She handed it to me. I opened it and flipped through the pages. Doodles, lyrics, basic stuff. Until I hit a page labeled Target AN. That's me. She wrote about me in third person, like a case study. Mentioned where I worked. The bar I liked. Even that time I sprained my wrist playing pickup basketball. Something I didn't even post online. This was before we met. She'd been following me, studying me, choosing me. I had been the target of something long before I knew her. I asked her mom if she thought Rachel had something to do with Dr. B's disappearance from the hospital. She just shrugged and said, "He stopped coming around. That's all I know." I left that day with more questions than answers. But I wasn't going to let it end there. I needed to know everything. So I did something I wasn't proud of. I went back to Rachel's old apartment. It was still empty, but the mail slot was busted open. I managed to wedge it and unlock the inside door, old building, barely secure. I stepped in expecting a stripped place, maybe a few moving boxes. What I found was a wall covered in photos. Me, Dr. B. Rachel. Maps, pins, lines connecting events, like some FBI manhunt board. Scribbles in the margins. Too soon? Does he suspect? Pull away, create distance? One part had a circle drawn around a photo of me and Rachel at a Christmas party, with a note under it. He trusts me too much. Dangerous. Then I saw a USB drive taped under her desk. I took it and got the hell out. That night I plugged it in and found video security cam footage from my apartment building. Not the lobby camera, not the hall. From inside other tenants' apartments, including mine. She had tapped into the building's maintenance system. And more than that, one folder was labeled Field Notes, Dr. B. Inside were logs from him, but in a completely different tone than the ones in the earlier diary file. These weren't about me. They were about her. Subject is losing stability. Watching her interact with AN feels staged, like she's playing both of us. I underestimated her capacity for manipulation. She knows I'm watching. I think she wants me to see. Found my own photos missing. She's duplicating surveillance. This was my experiment, but she's hijacked it. I don't know how this ends. I just sat there, heart racing, palms sweating, staring at my screen. This wasn't just a love triangle. It wasn't even a revenge story. Rachel had been using both of us. We were her puppets. But for what purpose? That question would be answered 2 days later, when I got another package. Inside, a burner phone. It rang 5 minutes after I turned it on. A man's voice. Tired, worn, desperate. "You don't know me, but I'm the one who sent you the diary." It was Dr. B, alive and terrified. Dr. B sounded like a man running on fumes. His voice cracked when he said my name, like he'd rehearsed this call in his head too many times to count. I didn't say much. I let him talk. He told me he was calling from a hotel room in Pennsylvania where he'd been hiding for the last 2 months. He hadn't told anyone where he was. Not his family, not his friends. He was using burner phones, paying in cash, living like a fugitive. Why? Because Rachel had destroyed his life. But not in the way you'd expect. "She studied me the way she studied you," he said. "Only I thought I was studying her." It turns out Dr. B was running an off-the-books behavioral research project through a shadow nonprofit with ties to a university in Chicago. He was trying to identify and predict patterns in manipulative personality types, gaslighters, pathological liars, social predators. He wanted to build an early warning system for high-risk individuals in caregiving roles. The irony wasn't lost on him. He said Rachel was part of an experimental cohort, a small group of candidates flagged by social pattern anomalies online. Basically, They looked for people who fit certain behavioral markers and then approached them anonymously with opportunities. Rachel was one of them. One of the best, he said. She was recruited anonymously, told she was being considered for a secret psychological field study. They gave her missions, instructions. Watch this person. Report this behavior. Record everything. What she wasn't supposed to do was go off script. She was only meant to interact with you, Dr. B said. Observe you, influence small variables, track how you'd react under subtle emotional manipulation. But she didn't follow the rules. She got close, too close. And then she flipped the script. She started feeding false reports, controlling the study, not just with me, but with him. She blurred the lines between researcher and subject until no one could tell who was controlling who. The worst part? She broke into the research HQ, he said. Downloaded files, profiles, everything. She had dirt on the whole program. She had leverage. And then she disappeared. That's why Dr. B ran. He said others from the cohort started going silent. 2 had died. One of an overdose, the other of an accident. He didn't think they were accidents. She's not who you think she is, he said. Rachel isn't even her real name. He texted me a scanned ID after the call. Different name, different photo, the same eyes, same faint scar above the left eyebrow. I searched the name he gave me. A missing persons report dated 9 years ago. Filed by a group home in Arizona. She'd been 17. That's when everything inside me snapped. This wasn't a breakup story. This was a long con, years in the making. A girl with no real identity, bouncing through the system, groomed by someone or something bigger, used as a test subject, and then breaking free and turning on her creators. And somewhere in the chaos, I had been just another case file, just another mark. Or maybe, just maybe, I was the only one she ever saw as real. The final twist came a week later. I got one last email. No sender, just a video file. It was her, Rachel. She was sitting in a hotel room, hair tied back, no makeup, just her. The real her. She looked tired but not scared, calm, in control. She spoke directly into the camera. You probably know everything by now. Or enough, anyway. But you're still missing one thing. Why you? She paused. You weren't a mark, not at first. I picked you long before the study found me. You were kind, predictable, safe. I wanted to build something real, to see if I could feel normal for once. She looked down for a second. When she looked back up, her eyes were glassy. But they found me, turned you into my assignment, and I didn't know how to separate the two. She smiled faintly. You loved me, even when I didn't love myself. That's why I had to leave, because I didn't want to destroy you, too. The screen cut to black. Just before it did, a timestamp flashed in the top corner. The video was dated 1 week after she was reported missing. So she's out there, somewhere, watching, hiding, waiting, I don't know. But I changed my name, moved states, new job, new number, no social media. I sleep with a bat by the bed and my phone in a Faraday bag. Because here's the thing. When you've been part of someone's game this long, you never really know when it ends, or if it ever does. It's been a year since that last video. Since then, no contact, no packages, no shadowy figures in the background. Just silence. Most people would have taken that as closure. I didn't. I knew she wasn't done. You don't orchestrate something that elaborate, disappear, fake your death, and send a farewell video unless you want someone to feel it. You want an ending, a reaction, maybe guilt, maybe fear. But what you really want is control. So I did the only thing I knew how to do. I stopped running. I started looking for her. Quietly. I reached out to one of the former researchers Dr. B had mentioned in the files. A woman named Harper. She responded to my encrypted message with a single sentence. If she contacts you again, don't meet her. Promise me that. I didn't reply. Because a week later, Rachel did contact me again. Not through email, not through video. In person. She just walked up behind me in a train station in Philadelphia, placed a note in my coat pocket, and vanished into the crowd before I could even turn around. It was raining. That strange kind of cinematic rain where you half think, maybe you're dreaming. I opened the note. Last stop, room 418, 9 p.m. Come alone. That night, I stood outside room 418 of a motel that smelled like cigarettes and old carpet glue, heart pounding like it wanted out of my chest. I knocked once. The door was already unlocked. She was sitting on the bed. Same eyes, same scar, same calm expression. She looked smaller somehow. Like all that power she'd held over me for years had drained into the floor. We didn't speak at first. I sat down across from her. She slid something across the table. A leather-bound journal. Her real one. Not the fakes she left behind. Not the surveillance logs. Hers. She let me read the first page aloud. Everyone thinks I'm a villain in someone else's story. What they don't realize is that I'm the ghost in my own. She told me the full truth. She'd been part of 3 separate research experiments in her life. First, as a child abandoned, labeled emotionally reactive, used by state-run psychological programs to study dissociative resilience. Then again as a teen, recruited by a private think tank studying empathic mimicry. And finally, with Dr. B and his behavioral prediction cohort. Each time she'd run, reinvented herself. The last time, she decided to weaponize what they taught her. She targeted me not because I was weak, but because I was stable. I was her test of whether she could anchor herself to reality again. But when Dr. B's study found her, she realized she was in danger. Real danger of being pulled back in, this time permanently. So she flipped the game, framed him for misconduct, hacked the surveillance systems, made herself disappear, faked her own death, because she knew what was coming next. Institutionalization, a padded room, a chemical silence. She said she sent me the goodbye video because I was the only person who ever really saw her. Not the facade, not the subject, but her. I wanted to leave one honest thing behind, she said, but I also needed to know if you'd come find me. I asked her what she wanted now. She looked out the window. Rain pattered gently on the glass. Choice, she whispered. Not escape, not forgiveness, just choice. I've never had that. Then she stood up, walked over to me, and pulled something from her coat pocket. A flash drive. This has everything. The experiments, the people behind them, the names, the real ones. You can take it to the press, burn it, keep it. I don't care. But this is the only copy. She placed it in my palm. Then she leaned in and whispered, "Tell my story however you want. But don't pretend you were innocent either." And with that, she walked out the door. I never saw her again. I still have the drive. I haven't opened it. Not because I'm afraid of what I'll find, but because I'm afraid I already know that somewhere along the line, I stopped being her target and became her partner. In what? I still don't know. But I can't shake the feeling that when I walked into room 418 that night, I didn't get answers. I got infected. So if you're reading this and you think it's just another breakup story, think again. Because some people don't just leave scars, they leave mirrors. And if you stare long enough, you'll realize she didn't become me. I became her.